Hey. They're still hanging around. Let's bring in Al Pawlowski, Cleveland Guardians TV, pregame, postgame. Got the call games over the weekend. I love when you get excited, Al, man. You were channeling your inner Cleveland State basketball over the weekend. That was cool stuff. I'm telling you, I'm like, he's fired up. I love it when you get excited. How you doing, partner?
Hey, good, Sam. Great to talk to you. And it's fun when this team scores a lot of runs. It's a lot better than it was a couple of weeks ago when they were struggling to score.
I'll tell you what, I've deemed this club expect the unexpected. And last night they go out and they get behind 3-0, and I'm thinking, oh, here we go. And then, nothing phases them. They just come out, they tie the game. They go on to score 10 on 14 hits. And Al, I think they still left a small village on the field, on the base paths last night. We had some guys here in the office said they could have scored 20 maybe last night if they got some hits. When this I think there's a stat out there, you probably know better than I, when they score 4 runs, their record is absolutely impeccable. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. And we were talking last night too on the pregame show, and then with the win last night when they scored 5 or more, and now they're averaging in this last 11 game stretch, they're averaging over 6 runs per game. So if they score 5 or more, they're 31-6. So yeah, I mean that's the key with this club, because the pitching's going to be there. It has been for well over a decade now. They've been getting consistent pitching, whether it's starting or relieving. So that's there. The questions when they have down years really most of the time come down to the offense more than anything. And you're right. They left 15 guys on base, and still scored 10 runs, which is crazy. It goes to show that the offense must be doing pretty well, because if you leave 15 on base and still find a way to score 10, the things are going your way. And so I think that's more than a small village. That's almost the size of Canton, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Al Pawlowski is our guest, joining us from Cleveland Guardians TV. The Guards and Orioles coming up Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the rare 4-game series, but we'll see if we can get a few more before the end of the series is over. So, very sneakily, Al, and I know it's, but they've trimmed it down to 10 in the division. And I know that's a big ask, and, we're more focused on the wild card, but the fact that they've chopped 5.5 or 6 off of that, now we're 3.5 out of the third wild card. Only got to jump over a couple of teams as of today. And I know it's fluid and things will change every couple of days, but the fact that this team just keeps working, they keep bringing their lunch pail. And I think Stephen Vogt, more than any manager I can think of lately, keeps these guys on such an even keel that it's like they're numb. They're numb to losses and they're numb to wins almost.
Yeah, in a way, you're right. And last night, now you could just tell the feeling is back that no matter what the score is, they can go out there and score more. So even if they're down 3-0 early, not a big deal. Where it felt like anytime they went down on that 10-game losing streak, you felt like it was over.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's the opposite feeling. So you go down early, and it's back to the way the offense is going right now, we're probably going to be able to score some runs. And you mentioned Stephen Vogt's even keel, and that's been important because this group is one that has some talent. Obviously at the top, Juan Ramirez, that's about as good as it gets. Angel Martinez now, with the way that he's coming on, fits really nicely between those two. So now you've got a top 3 that's hot. And now the bottom part of your order is starting to heat up too. Nolan Jones, over the last 12 games or so, I think is batting near 300. Bo Naylor last night looks like he's starting to find his swing once again. Brian Rocchio, since the recall, has been hitting the ball very well. He's batting something like 360, I want to say, since he came back up, maybe 380. I don't have him right in front of me, but it's those sorts of numbers. And that's going to now make the difference, because you knew the top part, they've always been there. Even in the tough times, Juan and Ramirez were always getting their hits. But now the lower portion of the order is starting to contribute. And you mentioned the 10 games back, and yeah, that's a big ask to catch Detroit, even though this month they look incredibly average or slightly below. So some of their cracks are starting to show, but because it's a 10-game lead at this point of the season, it's tough to make that up. That being said, the wild card, they're within 4 games of a spot. There's a lot more teams, so 4 games is, more like 7 or 8 in a divisional race. Mm-hmm. It's easier to catch one team than it is several. But yeah, they're right there, and they got a soft part of the schedule now. Baltimore is not playing well. Kansas City is not playing well. They struggle at home especially. They're a little better now than they were a month ago, but they're still not great. The Rockies are perhaps worse than the White Sox were last year. So you've got a chance right now to really win some games. They've won 9 of 11. It's hard to win every night in Major League Baseball, especially when, you get a pitcher even on a bad team that feels it and finds his rhythm. It's tough to do. But if, let's say, they can win 5 of their next 7, let's see where everybody else is now. Maybe you're within 2 games of a wild card spot. Now you're right there with the trade deadline looming.
And there will be a couple trade deadline questions coming your way, Al. Just giving you a couple of minutes to think about it. I want to ask you about. I got 2 guys in the rotation right now that I'm just like, wow, I can't wait to watch them go out and throw every night now. Gavin Williams and Slade Ciccone. To me, I know we used to refer to Oral Hershiser as the Bulldog back in the day. Slade Ciccone, man, I'll get in a bunker with him any night.
Yeah, he competes, and it was nice that they got him a nice cushion on Friday so he could go out there and try to go the full 9. He got a little bit. The outfield let him down defensively. To be fair, a couple of balls were hit out there, should have been caught. He probably should have had the complete game, but when you score runs, you give a guy like that an opportunity. And man, he doesn't ever want to come out.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to stay out there as long as possible. That's a great attitude to have. Gavin Williams, I've loved his stuff for so long. When he commands everything, or let's say 4 out of his 5 pitches that he throws, when he commands those, man, he's tough to hit because he's got a lot of movement on those pitches. And then he's got a fastball. He's got a 4-seamer that can get up to 96, 97 miles per hour. So if you've got 3 or 4 off-speed pitches that are working, that are moving, that he's commanding, and then you start looking for one of those and you throw a 96 or 97 on the plate, there's no way they're going to catch up to it just because, you're looking for something in the low 80s and then he hits you with something in the mid to upper 90s. It's awfully tough to even foul tip that. That's what makes him so tough. He's got multiple pitches. They're all plus pitches. Can he command those? But yeah, those 2 guys are, they're playing a big part right now in what Cleveland is doing.
And just to piggyback off what you were saying about Gavin, I think it was the other night, Al, that they were, all the numbers and the charts that they keep. And I think they just broke it down and they said, okay, between the 4 and 5 pitches that he has that particular night, each pitch got about 25% of the repertoire. So like Al, he was throwing everything in his arsenal for strikes and keeping guys off balance. And I know that that's not going to happen every night, but when you can start getting into that kind of level, you're going to be dangerous.
Absolutely. And when you at the major league level, if you've got 3 plus pitches you can command as a starter consistently, you're tough to deal with because you've got the hitter thinking multiple things. So if the hitter sees, okay, he's throwing his fastball, his curveball, and his changeup for strikes, and not just for strikes, but he's locating them in a spot that I don't want to swing the bat. It could be down at the knees, it could be on the corners. Maybe some guys that have a little bit of a golf swing, they're locating, up around the letters, wherever that might be, but they're locating. If you've got 4 or 5, like you said, Sam, now you've really got the hitters in a pickle. I mean, look at some of the strikeout totals that he had. He struck a couple guys out. He struck out Rooker 3 times. He struck out the leadoff hitter 3 times for the A's. I mean, those guys had no chance against him. They were sitting on one thing, he threw another, and it was, it's fun to see if you're a Guardians fan to watch him flail away. Now, if you're an A's fan, you're sitting there going, oh boy, this guy's not getting anywhere close. But it's fun when you can watch a pitcher command like Gavin Williams was, and on the days that he does, he's as good as anybody in baseball.
Al Pawlowski is our guest, Cleveland Guardians TV. Check him on post-game, on pre-game. Al swings into the play-by-play booth once in a while when Maddie's off. Does a great job, and happy to have him here on the Sam Bourquin Show today, 1310 WDPN. Tonight, Brandon Young and Joey Cantillo, the pitching matchup. And Al, Joey Cantillo has been one of those guys. He's like the utility pitcher, so to speak. You need him to cover the back end of a doubleheader, fill in for a rain delay. He's there. He usually can eat a few innings for you. What have you seen out of him, as a whole, as he's tried to come along here in the organization?
Finally taking advantage of an opportunity, and that's so much of it at this level is getting an opportunity and then excelling with it. So we've seen Cantillo, as you mentioned, in plenty of different roles. Always liked his arm, always liked his stuff. His fastball is almost never straight, which is what you want. There's always some sort of movement on it. Now with Ortiz down for who knows how long, he's first up to get that chance to fill that rotational spot, and he's taking advantage. Tonight he's probably going to have a little bit more rope. That pitch count's going to be a little bit higher, assuming, he's pitching well. Obviously, if he runs into trouble, he's not going to be throwing 85 or 90 pitches. But, if he's going well, I think that's the number you're going to see him at tonight, somewhere around 85, 90 pitches. And if he continues to go like he has been, he's going to keep building. He's going to be that lefty that Cleveland has been looking for in the rotation. Logan Allen's done a nice job this year. He's definitely improved. But Joey Cantillo, I think, has got a little bit more wicked stuff, where Logan's going to be your control guy. And if he's got good control of his pitches and command as well, but control, that's where he's dangerous. Cantillo has got some nasty movement on some pitches. And when he can, like any pitcher, locate, command, control, I get it. But just having that sort of arsenal, it's a different look. The ball spins differently. It's not a typical spin that a lot of hitters see. That's what can set Joey Cantillo apart. So I'm anxious to see him tonight and see if he can continue to build on the consistency that he's showing in these last couple of starts.
All right, one more before we get to the trade deadline talk. Al, what do we know about Gabriel Arias and Lane Thomas as far as getting them back? What's the situation with those guys?
Arias is on a rehab assignment. They're hoping to get him back sometime, if not late this week, early next. But I would say within the next 5 to 8 days is probably the window you're looking at there, assuming no setbacks.
Okay.
Lane Thomas doing baseball activities. He's a little bit further away. He probably won't be back until August, I would guess right now. And those things are both fluid, but right now as we speak, it's 3:48 on Tuesday afternoon. That's kind of what you're looking at there.
All right, sounds good. Okay, trade deadline coming July 31st. You mentioned we are in a position now. It all depends on what the front office, what direction they want to go to. Is it going to be? Do you think their mind might be made up at this point, what direction they want to go, or do they want to wait another week and see if we get real win streaky and some other things kind of fall our way before they would decide whether to buy, sell, or stand pat? Where do we sit now today at 3:40 in the afternoon?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think they're still determining. I know that they've gone over a bunch of different scenarios. They've gone over one where it's straight sell. They have another one where it's straight buy. They have one that's in between the two, and then some other ones that are hybrids. Right now, I mean, I think we could see a hybrid, and what I mean by that is you could make a trade of a guy that could certainly help you down the stretch, but you would get so much back in return of what you need. You make that trade anyway.
Okay.
An example would be Emmanuel Clase. They don't want to trade him. They want him to continue in the back of this bullpen. But if somebody comes and overpays, and look, the Dodgers just had. It looks like Tanner's going on the disabled list again, injured list again for the Dodgers. They've already got, Evan Phillips has been hurt. Blake Trinan's been hurt. The Dodgers bullpen has been in a lot of trouble. They could certainly use a guy like Emmanuel Clase, and they've got a lot of talent over there. So, and this is just an example, just to get a feel for what I'm talking about. If the Dodgers, let's say, okay, we're going to give you Andy Pages, Dalton Rushing, and a prospect that you like for Emmanuel Clase. In that scenario, it's going to be awfully tough not to make that trade if you're Cleveland, because you're filling multiple needs. You're getting back very talented players that are also young. I think that's what it would take to trade a Clase. Now, if you're straight sellers, you're looking at everybody that's got 1 year left on their contract. This is their last year of the contract. They're going to try to move everybody in that scenario. If you're buyers, you might still move one of them to create a roster spot. But if you're buyers now, you're looking at that minor league system where they've had some guys with some good years at all levels that I know are of interest to other clubs. So it's going to be interesting to see. And I do think this next week, because you're playing teams you should beat,
right?
Or you have to beat now to get back into it. So if you can beat them, I think they're going to get some additions here at the deadline. But if you lose some of these, now you're going to look more at, let's make it a quick rebuild as quick as next year, because they still have a lot of young talent here. They still have Jose Ramirez, Stephen Kwan at their prime, so you can get right back in this thing as quickly as next year.
Al, would if they would go the route of buy or acquire or trade or what have you to add, would Josh Naylor be on their list at all? Do you think?
I think they would take a look at that, depending on what's the asking price there. Now, remember, Josh is a free agent after this year too, so
Right.
it would have to be low. I don't see them trading a blue chip for him, but let's say Arizona's like, you know what? Here's a guy we kind of like. Maybe we like him a little bit more than you. You've got depth here. Let's say it's a bullpen arm in the minors that Arizona's really high on. All right, something like that I could see happening because Cleveland has a lot of depth with bullpen arms or even guys that are starters now in the minors that long term they project is probably bullpen arms. So something like that. And that's why Emmanuel Clase could be available too, because you could trade him. You could get those guys that you need right now in the lineup. And now Kate Smith's your closer. Hopefully you have Trevor Stephan back. We'll see how that goes. But, Hunter Gaddis has been very good. Eric Sabrowski is now back, and he's helping you out. You've got some other guys that have been good out of the pen this year. So that's where their depth is. Could Arizona see a young pitcher that they could see in their bullpen soon, maybe as soon as next year, and say, you know what? We'll take this guy. We'll give you Naylor for the stretch run. Sure, it's possible. I don't know if it's likely, but it's certainly possible.
Al Pawlowski is our guest, Cleveland Guardians TV. Good to have him here on the Sam Bourquin Show, AM 1310 WDPN. Is there could there be any crazy surprise scenario, Al, as far as a guy that we would make available or that somebody that we would really try and go after? I listen to all the comments and I read all the stuff, and I've always had this philosophy of, listen to what they don't say. Listen to what they're not talking about. Anything out there pie in the sky that could happen?
Sure. I mean, that's always the case too. Now, a lot of these sources, they get them from agents.
Right.
Maybe from a few scouts, that might talk as well. Rarely are you getting them from the actual GM or who's ever negotiating the trades, let's say. Rarely. Now, you might have a GM that's close to somebody that's a scribe and wants to throw him a bone or wants something out there. Could that happen? Of course. And that happens at all levels, whether it's NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, whatever. But are there maybe some backdoor conversations where the agents or the players don't even know they're being talked about? Absolutely. There's some GMs that are friendlier than others that are going to have conversations where they are going to keep it between themselves. And now that's not everybody. I mean, there's even some GMs sometimes that they figured out, or assistant GMs that have perhaps spoken to people they should not have been speaking about to, and then things get out. But there's definitely some conversations that are going on that I have no idea what they are. Nobody does, except for a couple of guys that are maybe a little friendlier than others, and they're just keeping it just between those themselves until they get really close, and then you start to involve the assistants, and now word might come out, but that might not be until it's right about to happen. So yes, a surprise. It always seems there's some surprises at the deadline. I think there's going to be surprises this year as well, just because of how I know how sometimes things work behind the scenes.
That's what makes it so much fun. Al, before we let you go, were you an Ozzy Osbourne fan at all growing up?
Not so much. I never really got into his music. I like more some of his later stuff. Mama, I'm Coming Home. I thought that was a fantastic, release by him. That's been early 90s. It's probably been 30 years now, if not longer. But no, I heard he passed away. It's very sad. I'm glad that he did get that chance about a month or so ago to get back with his band.
Yep.
And have that opportunity, to do it one last time before it was all said and done. And I think that's probably what he was feeling, which is why he got a chance. He wanted to get out there and make a little bit of a comeback, even though it was brief.
Yeah, no doubt. Al, we always appreciate you taking the time, and hey, good luck tonight, and let's see if we can make a run and make this trade deadline date really, really interesting. Always thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
You got it, Sam, anytime.
There he goes. Al Pawlowski, Cleveland Guardians TV, pregame, postgame, and even fills in, does a little play-by-play when Matt Underwood is taking some time off.